Mr. Okihara, given the fact that the U.S. Federal Reserve is about to continue to raise its interest rates, and how do you view the current monetary policy stance of the Bank of Japan? How would it affect the outlook of the Japanese economy?
Okay. My view is that Bank of Japan monetary policy will be unchanged, despite some taper in terms of the amount of the purchase of Japanese government bond. It started to reduce the purchase from this year's. But Bank of Japan policy focus is long-term rate to make 10 years bond rate
at around 0%.
Plus minus 20, 30 basis point.
Yeah.
Well, this is the policy target until we see decent CPI numbers, which is now around 1% or below. I don't think it is easy to see 2%, 3% inflation rate in the immediate futures.
Okay.
That means that they will maintain the monetary policy going forward.
So for a foreseeable future, you won't see any drastic change, in the monetary policy of the Bank of Japan.
Yes, in the short to medium term.
Yeah.
I guess we are seeing tax hike in the GST in October 2019.
Okay.
I'm sure until then, Bank of Japan will maintain the monetary policy.
Okay.
I think this is a consensus outlook among the Japanese investors. So that doesn't affect outlook of Japanese economy and also Japanese stock market. If I'm wrong, that would be the very negative.
Okay. Japan is now facing the problem of aging population. How you address this question? How does it affect the labor market?
I don't think it is a very long-term thing. As long as government is taking right steps going forward, I think we don't see much negative impact in the equity market from the aging population. It is long-term issues. It doesn't affect much in the immediate futures. In fact, the fundamental problem of aging is shortage of labor.
Okay.
So if you look at unemployment rate in Japan, it has been 2 to 3% despite fairly low economic growth rate. That can be supply side constraint.
I see.
So this is a sort of one of the major priority by the Abe administrations.
Do you think it will reach a point where the government, will liberalize the immigration policy by allowing foreigners to come into Japan and to work?
I think the government has already announced some small deregulations. If I can step back, government started to take action in the domestic market with more focus on the female and elder people. The female participation in the labor market is one of the big policy agenda. And Abe announced to encourage the female to come back to the labor market. In fact,
has this been successful?
I think so. It started to rise from 2012. Labor participation rate in female used to be 60%. It has been climbing up to 75 to 80% right now. This was a significant jump. So the Abe administration implements some child care so that females can come back to the labor market. This is a sort of policy priorities. And another priority is people over 60 years old who is supposed to retire in old system. The Abe administration encouraged
raise the working age.
Yes, to extend the retirement age from 60 years old, 65, 67, 70 if you like.
Really?
This is a sort of encouragement by the government to the private sectors. In fact, we start to see significant jump of labor participation rate of the people over 60 and also over 65.
How do the Japanese people react to this? Do they still want to work, by the time they reach 65, 67 or 70 years old, as you mentioned, or they prefer to relax? If they want to relax, is there enough money in the pension fund system to help, their to support, their life, during the retirement?
Obviously, if they have a choice, they like to stay relaxed. They can choose be out of the market. But I think it is pretty rare. Imagine the guy, the lady, 60 years old, 65 years old. They have still energy to do something. So most people are willing to stay in the labor market in reality. But someone may choose step back right after age of 60s. But they're supposed to come back soon. They'll be bored with the life being without doing anything.
Can I ask you this? You think the management of the Japanese pension fund system is adequate enough, to look after the Japanese people, going into their retirement? Is it a big challenge to manage so that it provide the return, so that it adequately, can support, the Japanese in their retirement?
At this moment, in the very, very immediate futures, perhaps people can receive the benefit. I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. That would be possible. But in the longer term, it will be a little bit difficult to expect very healthy pension systems. My view is that perhaps the age when we can start receiving benefit will be extended further. 65, 70 years old maybe. So that's why it's important actually for encourage people to stay in the labor market to make money with the potential sort of push out of the age to receive the pension money.
Yeah. So what's the challenge of diversifying the pension fund management, in order to seek broader opportunities?
I think, generally speaking, they need to take a little bit more risk. Pension system is pretty low. It depends on pension systems. Some very wealthy, healthy pension systems, they don't have to take risk. Interest rate is zero. They might enjoy some carry with a low interest rate with low risk. So it depends on the pension system when I talk about the right strategy to take going forward.
What's your advice to countries like Thailand, China? Because in the future we are going to face the aging population like Japan's. At this point of time, what measures, what kind of steps that we should be prepared in order to face this aging population in the future?
In fact, one of the problems is, as I mentioned, that the shortage of laborers. To set up the social system to encourage female or people over 60, 65 years old to remain in the labor system. If you take the right step earlier, it will be even better. Now, another thing is that healthcare. Healthcare burden is another concern for the aging problem, obviously. And also, we start to see some preemptive action to reduce the number of patients. That should be taken as early as possible. These are kind of recommendations for that.
Is healthcare cost in Japan going up?
Yes, it is.
Significantly?
It is going up.
It's becoming a problem.
It is. And at this moment, it is not that serious problem, but going forward, I'm sure it will create some noises.
Japan is going through a reform in corporate governance. How do you view this will affect the corporate sector in the future?
Yes, I think so. Corporate governance, one of the difficulty to talk about corporate governance is it is very hard to measure. But if you look at the dividend and share buyback combined, which is a sort of cornerstones for share owner-friendly corporate management, it has been climbing up to the historical high. This is one of the examples why the corporate governance is gradually improving. And another example is that number of independent directors. Now, more than 85% of the listed company appointed more than 2 independent directors, which used to be 20% or below in 2010 or 2012. That is a significant changes in terms of the structure of the corporate governance. I think it's moving to the right direction, but perhaps frustration by global or domestic investors has been too slow.
Final question. What is the popularity rating of Mr. Shinzo Abe now? Do you think that his economic reform has been successful so far? Are you happy with his work?
It's very mixed, in fact. popularity of administration is pretty mixed. But some people criticize the success just came from the easy monetary policy to make yen weaker and encourage
not from the reform or
structural things.
Structural reform.
But I have a little different opinions. As I mentioned that the labor participation rate started to rise, and also they encourage corporation to extend the retirement age. I think it is a small development, but the direction is okay. We are moving to the right directions, but we need to gear up.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you very
conversation.
much.